Hello, good evening, everyone. This is probably the fourth live that I will start this evening due to GG season. But I hope that our guest can join this one so that we'll start right away. I'll wait for her to join so that we can start. Let me see if she's able to join. It's having any difficulty. Okay, thank God. Finally, I had it. What's it today? Okay, I think she's here. Finally, yay! Thank God.
Hi, can
Hello.
you hear me? Can
Good
you hear
evening. Yes,
me?
I can hear you. I can hear you clearly. Good evening.
So I Good evening. I think the problem was joining in with my laptop because when I used my phone, it just took me straight to
Okay.
join the live as opposed to my laptop. I'm still stuck
Yeah.
on Go Live together. So
So that's probably why. Because I tried with someone and it was just straightforward. So that's probably why. So welcome once
thank
again. Some
you.
people joined before, but they've gone. So like I
Too
said, it
bad.
wasn't supposed to be like a live session, like everyone come around and all of that. Because I didn't really do publicity for it. I tried to share something yesterday, but I'm not really used to YouTube lives, so I'm just starting to get a hang of it. So, and then for podcasts like this, I would normally just record a session with the guest, and then I would edit and upload. So this is the first podcast session that we're having live.
Fantastic.
And I'm actually glad to
Fantastic.
have you here. I've done some preamble in the lives that went off, so I'm going to redo them. So, welcome once again. I'm so
Thank
excited
you.
about the conversation we're about to have. Like I have just said, it's not like we planned this live, like we're supposed to be live with people. So, if you're streaming this live session, you've not missed out on anything, and it's not as if we did not tell you. Because I just also discovered just now that we are 6,000, subscribers strong. So, and
Wow, that's
there are some
fantastic. Congratulations.
thank you very much. There are some subscribers on Battle of Itola that really, they are really committed subscribers. So I wouldn't want them to see and think that, oh, when did they do this and they didn't tell us about it. So it wasn't really planned. Like it's just if you are streaming this, just think of it as a recorded session that you're, privy to much later. So our guest is a very, very important guest, like I have said in the small publicity I was able to do yesterday. This is our Santa, our Christmas Santa that we brought. So I saw her, she posted some things on Twitter about her career trajectory, and I thought it was really amazing. So I said, I really want her to come and tell us about that on Battle Pitola. So this session is about specialization and niching, carving a niche for yourself in law practice in Nigeria, especially as a young lawyer. So, like I always say, this will be very useful for young lawyers, for law students, and of course, laymen too will be able to get one thing or the other too from the
Mm.
session. So, as we do, she's going to introduce herself to us, like some of our guests. I asked her for a bio, and she did not oblige me one. So, she's going to introduce herself now, and then we'll
Like
take it
some
from
of
there.
our guests, I asked her for.
Okay,
Okay.
so welcome once again, Miss Rita Chindah. No, Miss Rita Anwiri Chindah. Yeah, that's the name. So I'll allow you to tell us about yourself, briefly before we go on.
Okay. My name. Good evening, everyone, or good day,
Good
everyone.
evening.
I don't know where you're joining from, but my name is Rita Anwiri Chindah. I am an intellectual property lawyer and information technology lawyer based in Rivers State, Nigeria. I'm also the podcast host of IP series. And what else? Oh yeah, I'm also a lecturer. I've featured in a couple of speaking engagements and written a couple of things. So that's me for short.
Welcome once again. I want to see if I can share this to. Yeah. So welcome once again. Like you have heard, you've probably heard, some things about what we're going to be talking about. She's a lawyer. She's a podcaster. She's a lecturer. She's also a public speaker. So I think those are really, really the fine things of life. Combined into one person. So I'm going to I put a few questions here that I want to ask so that our conversations will be guided. So
Yeah.
we know what she does now. We know that she's a lawyer. Did you mention intellectual property? I'm the one mentioning it.
IP and IT, that's my area of specialization. I'm also an arbitrator. I failed to mention that, but again, those are like my core
Okay, so
area of
IP and
practice.
IT would be what and what for laymen?
Intellectual property in terms of copyrights, patent, trademark, industrial design. The IT angle would be the interplay of IP in the digital age. We're talking about cybersecurity, data protection, and all of that, cross-border related disputes. There's also
Okay.
this dispute resolution angle to my area of specialty. So yeah.
Okay, so would it be correct to say that you are an IP specialist, an intellectual property lawyer? Because we want to talk about specialization. So if that would not be correct, tell us your specialization then.
I think specialization has to do with your area of interest, what you have
Mhm.
picked an interest in and developed capacity, which is something I've done over the last few years. My story is different from some lawyers. I won't say every lawyers because I did not go to law school. Um, with my mates, not because I had an extra year or something, but my school had issue, the kind of issue that Bayes University currently had. We were given a
Oh,
ban
okay.
because my school was
Wow.
admitting more law students than they should in their
What school
quota.
is that?
So I went to a private school called Madina University,
Oh,
and
okay.
that was where my journey to IP actually began. So when I was in 400 level, um, it was introduced as an elective course for final year students. And when you're preparing for final year, there's so many things on your mind. What would life after uni be like for you, and what are
Mhm.
the courses that you would want to offer that are elective in terms of legal practice? So when I found out that they had introduced intellectual property, I just told myself this is like easy peasy. I mean, it's interesting. And I did the course in the first semester. We had a bit of an issue where, according to the school, the exam. Someone had leaked the exam questions. I did not see the exam, so I was really pained. But then they had to do another question, and that's how I started my journey to IP. So when my name wasn't sent to law school for that session or for that year, that was in 2011. You know, my name came out for service. I went for service, and then I was posted to a secondary school. So I was done with that in 2013. And then the conversation started with my dad as to what are you going to do when are you going to law school? And I was like, law school for now is in the hand of my school. And he asked, what would you like to do while you're waiting? So I think I would consider doing a master's. And he said, okay, I should look for schools and tell him how much it's going to cost him. So I started looking for schools. I was particularly interested in the UK. I don't know. I just have a for UK.
Mhm.
And I saw that University of Derby was offering IP and IT, and I was like, that's an interesting mix. So I opted for that. My dad wanted me to go to the US, but then I had my reasons why I didn't want to go to the US. So I ended up at the University of Derby in September of 2013, and it was a really interesting experience for me having to see IP on the global level, and it just made me realize that we still had a lot of work to do. Though when I was writing my project, I had a bit of difficulty getting some materials and stuff. But coming back home, my zeal was basically to build up my skill and capacity, and also, be part of the community in Nigeria.
So you did a master's in intellectual property, stricto sensu.
IP and IT, yeah,
Oh, okay. What's
intellectual
the
property
IT
and
part?
information. The IT part, like I previously said, there is the interplay of how IP
No,
is
I mean the.
evolving,
I feel like
is
it's an abbreviation. So what is the?
information technology.
Oh, it's the normal information technology. I thought it was something else. Yeah. Okay. So IP and IT.
No.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes, yes,
Okay. So that's what your master's was in. So
yes.
when you
That's what my
came back.
master's was in.
So when you came
When
back.
I came back, I went to law school. Got called in 2016, and the whole thing coming out of law school, trying to figure out where to get a job. I got an offer to move to Lagos for 50K. Like, how can a master's holder be earning 50K in Lagos? So I
Mhm.
turned down the offer, and I opted to, I was going to one of my relatives' law firm. That's where I was practicing because I was friends with two of the lawyers in the firm. So whenever they were
Okay.
going to court, they were asking me to join them. And I think one day I was on Facebook, or I think I was added to one of these law platforms on WhatsApp, and I came across a post by my former boss, Senator Ihenen, and I was like, this is
Okay.
really interesting. I try to see someone, focusing on IP and not, merging it with litigation. So I connected with him on Facebook and we got talking. And he asked me to tell him about myself. And I told him, say, okay, I see you have a master's in IP and IT. Why don't you join my firm? So that was in 2017. So a year after, or maybe a couple of months after I left law school. So I started working at Infusion Lawyers, which is a
Okay.
virtual law firm. So I liked the idea of
It's
working with
virtual. I
Infusion.
didn't know that until now. I think
Infusion actually a
I
virtual.
think I've seen
Yeah.
virtual. I used to work in a law. How would I describe this firm? Like a law training firm.
Yeah. Is it with Chinua Azuzu? I think that's his name. Gosh,
This
network.
so we had him. Was I off for a bit?
Yes, you were.
Oh,
Yes, you
sorry.
were.
Someone was trying to call me. I'm working with
Oh,
my
it
phone. So
happens.
God, please help me
It
wake them up
happens.
when you're done. So he was one of the trainers in that course, IP course. And then we were on this panel. There was this Abuja Young Lawyers Forum in 2021. Yes. So I was a speaker, I was a speaker too. So when you first mentioned the name, I didn't know that you were talking about senator. And I'm surprised that the
Um,
firm is virtual. So how does it work? How does a virtual firm work?
well, you work remotely. Like remote
Okay.
law
You don't have to go
firm.
to a physical place.
No. So I
Okay.
was based. I didn't have to leave Port Harcourt for Lagos. I had to work
Okay.
from Port Harcourt.
But they
So
have like a receiving address for correspondence.
yeah, we have correspondence and meeting as well. Some clients will want to meet you physically, and then you may need to
Yeah, I
stop
think
by
it's
for
very
some.
smart and efficient. That's really
I know,
efficient.
right? I
Yeah, and
know.
it's very so non-traditional. I wonder
Yeah,
when I
at
wear
that
the
time
purpose
it
of that.
wasn't. I think at that time it wasn't because
Mhm.
prior to that I'd gone for an interview that didn't go well. And when the partner
Okay.
saw me a couple of months later, I'd already started working with Infusion Lawyers. So he goes, what are you up to these days, young lady? I'm like, oh, I work with a virtual firm. I was like, what's that? I was like,
Mhm.
a remote law firm. And he was like, nah, if it's not a brick and mortar, it's not. And I was like, okay, cool.
I think most people
I
still have that idea because I still put out a
yeah,
tweet like 2 days ago saying that, oh, I really want a remote opportunity because I don't want to leave the things that I'm doing, but I want to expand, my options. Like I don't want to be underemployed. So while I'm doing some things now, I don't want to leave them, but I want to to do some other things. And then someone was like, "What will you now be doing if you're a remote worker?" Someone had to now reply and say, "Oh, you be reviewing document, we're doing that." So I did not bother to just reply that comment because it felt like, oh, this person does not even understand that this is a
yeah,
possibility in this age. And I really
Yeah.
think that it might probably be the future of law firm law firm work
I
in
think
Nigeria.
COVID
It
showed
might
us that already. I think
but
pandemic it
people
kind
are
of
already going
opened a
back
lot of
post
people's
COVID.
mindset.
Post
Yeah.
COVID, people are really just returning back to the traditional way. As it's
Mm.
as if some people, not everyone, did not learn anything from COVID. But then let me not pause you too much. So you started working with immigration lawyers, and
Yes,
then
I worked with Infusion from 2017 to I think November of 2019. But in between those 2 years, some months, Senator will always hammer and tell us if you have an interest in something, please build your knowledge and capacity because when the briefs come knocking, you're going to lead the team. So it helped, build me up. I think I started getting my speaking engagement because Infusion I started like an IP blog then called IPABC. And
okay.
Senator had his, I think, IP Matters with Senator. Can't remember now, but I think that's it. So that kind of put me a little bit in the spotlight of people
Mm,
trying to associate me with IP. So you look at the branding and the trademark aspects when you talk about source indicator. So whenever they saw an IP ABC post and I was one that posted it or published it or shared it or distributed it, people said they're affiliating me with IP practice. So I think my first speaking engagement when I got the offer to come and talk about IP, I told Sen was like, there's nothing hard. I just gonna prepare slides and like, yeah, okay, just work on something and then I will help you fine tune. And that's how I started, working on my speaking, public speaking skills. Then I think the first time I did something out of other than speaking in at events was when someone made a publication on Twitter. I think that was when Diola Sage, the lady that does this very lovely astroke, she
okay.
had the
Diola
Kumolo set.
Tagwe.
So she made a publication that she had registered the design rights of her Kumolo set and kind of putting like an IP notice. So this is an IP protection right now. You can't keep
Mhm.
reproducing without my consent. And someone made a post on Twitter stating you cannot protect or register Ashoki. Ashoki is very
Mm.
unique to the Yorubas, and I was
Yoruba
like,
people very traditional.
so I had to do a Google search, like, okay, I put the Ashoki and then I put Diola says the Komole said there was no similarity. So I just took my time and did a bit of research and put out my first mini blog series on Twitter and it got good reviews. I didn't tell anybody in the firm when I was doing that. So I think it was one of my colleagues, Toby or Tobe, because his name is Tobe Chukwu. So Tobe was one that
Mhm.
let the firm know that I put out a publication. As soon as I did tell us that I've come to, Cherry, and I was like, okay. So he also gave me pointers on some things that I missed out on and had to go back and redo. So that's how I started IP series. So it started with just that one tweet, and
Okay.
today we
How long
have
ago was
a
it?
podcast. That was
Oh,
in
how
2019. That was in
2018. Okay, so
2018.
that's just like
2019. Oh no,
2019. Mm.
2019. Yeah, basically, I think that's when IPC really kicked off. So when you
That's
started getting,
pre-COVID,
uh, sorry,
right? That's
pre-COVID, yeah,
pre-COVID. Yeah.
yeah, pre-COVID. So when it started gaining popularity and all that, my friend Victor Bafemi, she also worked at Infusion. She specializes in blockchain at that time. Now she's doing a whole lot of digital related things, cybersecurity and the rest. But she then was encouraging me to delve into podcasting and creating other media formats. And I was like, I think that's a lot of work. So the pandemic came and we're all at home. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it kind of I didn't. It's not like I had free time, but I just said, okay, since I won't be leaving the four walls of my compound, let me just delve into it. So I made my first publication a day after my 30th birthday in 2020. So 18th of May was when I made my first publication after I'd seen Lola. So I know her about her ex Twitter former Twitter handle. now
Okay.
ex. I know her by her ex handle, which is Lola the Duffel Bag. So I saw her a publication where she stated she had published a podcast using at that time Anchor,
Okay.
and I did a bit of research about Anchor and found out that it was very easy just for you to sit down, plug in your earphone or your mic and record it using a phone or a laptop. So I said, okay, cool. So I did a couple of takes and I was like, this is not my mind, you know. And my allergies then were seriously acting up. So I think if you listen to my first episode, I was sniffing because I got tired of deleting our record and then I listen and then I hear and I was like, I was like, anyhow, I'll just put it out there, and I did, and it got a good, feedback. So, and I started, converting most of my Twitter series into podcasts, into creating infographics, into creating carousels, and eventually starting my blog. Though I'm not consistent with the blog, I'm more consistent with the podcasting and the other media format because blogging is basically when you're writing articles. So, as a
Mm-hmm.
lecturer, they always hammer on you. Um, to write articles and stuff like
Now
that. So yeah,
publication.
yeah, publication. So you have to do it right, else
Easy for promotion,
yeah,
especially
because I
in
do
the
recall, I do recall one blog post I did about a viral case, and someone comes to my DM and was like, "Oh, I expected you to touch on this," and I was like, I kind of rolled my eyes physically, but when I responded to the person, I was like, "Oh, right, thank you for the feedback." And I moved on because you really can't please everyone, and everyone will definitely see the
Mhm.
same way. We can't see a case in the same light. Everyone always have their view. So that was
Certainly.
my view, and I didn't want to be rude about it and say, "Oh, go write your own or something." But I kind of vented to a friend there. I call him Grandpa. So it was
Mm-hmm.
when I vented to at that point, and I was like, "Well, that comes with writing." So that's my story in a nutshell, I guess.
So now you're fully into IP. So, do you do any other? Do you do any other? Do you practice in any other area of law or aspect of
I do
law?
arbitration as well, arbitration
Okay.
and dispute resolution. So when I came back
Is it
from the
for IP
UK,
or for general cases?
I beg your
Your,
pardon.
your dispute resolution and arbitration, is it for IP or for general
So
cases?
I try to, the thing about specialization, trying to, be the expert in that area is not easy. But then I would say at this point in time, I'm not an IP arbitrator. I'm just a generalist arbitrator. A
Okay.
brief will come with experience. So if an arbitration clause or a dispute resolution clause specifically mentioned that they want an arbitrator that is experienced in IP, or so I got a referral 2 months ago, and parties were looking for an arbitrator that was versed in a particular area of IP. So I've
Okay.
done a bit of that, but never sat on the panel for that area. So, it's 50-50. If you want to specialize, there are a couple of arbitrators who that I know that do IP related disputes. And the reason why I also went into arbitration was it was one of the modules I took during my master's level, and I found it
Okay.
kind of interesting. Like I didn't have to bow and say "me lord," all those
Mm-hmm.
formalities in court. So it was more or less like me trying to run away from court.
Okay.
But then I think IP litigation is interesting because you also have to rack your heads and come up with strategies and look out for the loopholes or the exceptions that the other party did not take into consideration. I kind of enjoy reading judgments, IP judgment. I'm reviewing cases for my podcast or any of my posts. But yeah, so IP, IT,
It's interesting.
arbitration,
I think
did a
that
bit of detail.
in a way your the areas that you pinpointed that you're building a specialty, and I think they cohere in a way in the sense that I know that for IP, I think that arbitration or dispute resolution that does not involve litigation is usually the best alternative, in most IP cases. But if you were
It
to
would
go through
depend. I think for that it would depend on the dispute.
Okay,
Um,
well, maybe now that you mention it, because I recall that even for this case between Tracy Chapman and Nicki Minaj, even though they
yeah,
had gone to court, they eventually settled out of court. So I think that and because it's an ongoing revenue, IP generates revenue. It doesn't wait for you like, oh, let's come back from court. If it's live streaming, if it's music, for instance, maybe you sampled someone's music without authorization, instead of getting an injunction, forcing your this thing going to court, it might be more instructive or better or expedient for you to just say, okay, let's settle out of court instead of forcing this stream of revenue. So I just generally think that uh, dispute resolution, out of court dispute resolution would be better. So, but now that you mentioned that you were running away from wig and gown, when last did you go to court? When last did you wear wig and gown?
well, it's kind of tricky and interesting at the same time. So this conversation within the legal profession where everyone is like, if you're not practicing, you're more or less not. It's like you're always talking down on commercial
Yes,
practitioners
yeah,
or
actually.
in-house counsel, trying to make us feel like, okay, we are not lawyer enough. I mean, come on, we're all called to be barristers, advocates, and solicitors. So why don't you let me flex my muscle? I have other areas of interest such as maritime. I think it's a
Mhm,
very, not because I'm from the south, but it's
mhm.
interesting and complex at the same time. And I kind of so when you're growing in practice, if just going to court with the silk and the other lawyers, also having to um subscribe to other law firm blogs to be abreast of what is happening in other areas of law. If anyone piques your interest, that becomes like my go-to when I want to like know what's happening. But the last
Okay.
time I was in court was a couple of months ago, and it was this
Oh,
year.
this year. Well, that's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, it wasn't an IP, it was a maritime dispute. But other than that, I wear my wig and gown because I'm active at the bar in Port Harcourt here. When we
Okay.
have opening of legal year, also as a Catholic lawyers, when we have opening of legal year, if we
Okay.
have validity session for a lawyer who's passed on or a judge or something. So this is the time you
Okay.
catch me wearing my wig and gown.
Good and well.
Yeah.
I generally run away from all those outings. So I know that if I will prompt them, they are always having that. Yeah, always having that. They're always doing
I can
validation.
imagine.
This and that. I generally just run away because I don't like the camera aspect generally. So, but that's by the way. So now we've talked about how you got into IP. What's your view on specialization? I understand that you don't want to come off as having niched into IP alone.
Can't hear you. Hi. Are you back? 'Cause I can't hear anything again. Okay. Oh, she's left again.
No,
Hi.
yeah, that was network.
Yeah. Welcome to Nigeria.
Especially uh, firms that are they have departments and all of that. But firms that are like sole proprietors, just do everything and anything that comes their way. So, what's your view on for a young lawyer? What's your view on specialization for a young lawyer? Do you think okay, let me qualify the question. Do you think it's a smart thing to want to do? Because I'm saying this because you know that there are some of our colleagues that, but to them they already knew I want to do human rights. I want to be, yeah. But there are some others that would find their interests when they go to school, like you have shared your own story. And there are some that just want to practice the law, that anything that comes. So, what's your view on specialization in Nigeria, especially for a young lawyer?
Um, my view is going to be a very controversial one, and that's because my
Okay.
journey to specialization is not the normal route that most lawyers would take, especially now when you're having quota related issues in most universities, private and government institutions. So specialization will basically start from your undergrad. I think your undergrad is like the foundation to defining your area of specialty and what interests you have in. As you grow, your interest will always change because change is a constant thing. So let's use my route for
Mhm.
example. My I didn't start out
Mhm.
wanting to practice IP. I liked the course, yes. I did a master's, and that was where it clicked in my head that okay, I think this is an area that requires my attention or I would want to build expertise in. And then I went all in. I I didn't go. So some persons I want to specialize may not go and do a master's. They do that by attending events, by doing trainings, taking short courses, joining roundtable conversation, reading blogs. Now, if you start off in a law firm, so let's not even talk about law firms. Let's talk about the practice. You are called to be a barrister as an advocate. If you're looking to start in a government agency, let's say you work in, say, NIMASA, and you know that's maritime related this. That means you have to, your specialty will have to grow from there, or you build your specialty there because that is what your organization is known for.
Mhm.
You get into a law firm that specializes. So I'm based in Port Harcourt. We have very few law firms that specialize. Everyone is doing a general practice. Just very few firms
General
like the
practice.
likes of Solana and Akpana, which have a Lagos office, Principles Law Firm, and some other offices again that understand that the business of law is not just about being a generalist, it's about you, having some knowledge in an area and then working towards building capacity in those areas. So you may not have lawyers that have interest in that, but then because economy, you decide that that's the right route for your team, you can put out a call for anyone who is interested and train them. But with the Japa craze right now, I think some firms may be reluctant to train young lawyers, especially because if you after training
You just
you
go with
you
their
just go.
resources.
So if you're
Mhm.
opportune or maybe your pathway was like mine, I don't think anyone should make you feel less of yourself because you're not an astute litigator or something. If so, other than IP, I did arbitration like I mentioned. So Yogs told me, he said if you can, and I just focused on money aspect. And he was like, on arbitration, got me settled for my mortgages, my children's fees, still had money for flexing. I was like, eh? So there's money in other areas. So money can also
Mhm. She left. Okay. She's
I'm
back.
back.
Yes.
Okay, so I would say if you're in a law firm that specializes from the moment you get into, because I
Yeah,
know
but
from,
the volume is gone.
can you hear me now? Is it better? Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I
Can
can,
you
but
hear
it's less than
me? Is
how
it
you were
better?
speaking before.
Is it
Nope.
better? Oh my god. Okay, can you hear me now? Because I'm
Nope.
practically screaming in mine.
It's just like
Can you hear me? Great.
okay.
So I was saying if as a young lawyer in a
Yeah.
firm, say let's say Alukonoye Bode or Templars or BNI, and at that point they put you in a department. Or maybe the department they put you in is not you're not fancying it. I think it's only fair for you to talk to someone to tell them that this is where you think you're tilting more into. But again, no knowledge is a waste. So I do
Mm-hmm.
recall when NMS brought this her program to Port Harcourt, and one of the speakers then was Mrs. SCN, Mianaya SCN. She's I call her my role model. I've never told her to her face, but I kind of like I like the way her practices. And then you let's say you work in her firm of some sort, and because you like what she do, you start tilting to that towards that area, kind of like shadowing her. You just need to tell somebody, and that's so one of the things she said then was she started in banking, not
Okay.
as a lawyer, and her banking experience helped her when she got a banking brief as a lawyer. So no knowledge is a waste. So you may not like where you started, but then you can't just push it aside. You get what I'm saying? Then you
Yeah.
also have instances where maybe everyone is trying to follow the tide and say, oh, tech is what is trending. You want to get into tech. And then you get into there and it still feels like you're not in your space. So, like I tell lawyers, there's so much focus on law firm application than other areas. You can work in house, you can head a department of the organization. You don't necessarily need to be so. I want to work in a law firm. If I'm not in a tier one law firm, I'm not. No, that's not it. Do you like the perks that they enjoy? Yes, but then there are other areas that you can also enjoy, and then networking again can also give you um can also create a pathway for you in terms of specialization. So I do strictly IP, but I'm working on a brief that intertwines with hospitality, cultural preservation, tourism, and the likes. There's an IP element to it, but then there's the compliance aspect, there's the grant aspect,
Mhm.
there's a lot of things. Would that be my preferred job? At that point, no. But then again, IP is what is driving me, and that's IP was what attracted my clients to me that brought me in on the brief. I'm
Mhm.
meeting people that I know that on a regular day, if I was solely focused on IP, I may not have had the opportunity to meet them. So every opportunity you get, any brief you get, if you're not also an expert in that area, other than reading, you can consult with your colleagues who you are experts. If they ask you for a token, please pay. I mean, to be an expert is not easy.
They shouldn't
Yes,
even ask
because
before
I
you
get
pay.
that issue sometimes with lawyers when I'm like, okay, I need to get paid, and they're like, we are colleagues. And I'm like, yes, we are colleagues, but not doing the same thing. You came to meet me
Mhm.
for a reason. So I'm not demanding, but I'm just telling you this is how it is. If I choose to help you,
No, if
that's on me.
even if you were to demand, I think you would be well within your rights to demand for some payments, remuneration for work done.
Or
Because
just
I've
transfer
also
the
found
brief
it,
to the
like you said,
person.
that some of our colleagues don't know, they don't understand propriety in some of these things. So I
Well,
understand what you're saying.
you cannot, if you feel that
So,
you're not strong enough, you can also partner with people or call in a senior to lead you, kind of like what we do in litigation, where you have someone that is leading you on the case because they are the organs in that area. We don't do it in
mhm.
other commercial transactions. We just feel like, okay, I know it, or we don't know it, or I read every day, not because I enjoy reading normal books. But when it comes to legal, I need to focus to read what I need to learn, and when I learn it, I'm putting it out there almost immediately. Sometimes in the process of trying to read, it might feel a bit overwhelming, and then you're asking yourself, is this the right
Okay.
thing? Am I doing it right? What again? I was going to say something, but it keeps escaping me. But yeah, if you want to specialize early, please do. Our pathways are not the
Okay.
same. I did not go to law school in 2011, and I don't feel bad. about it. Was it bothering me at some point? Yes. So I recall then my ex, he used to be the one I used to run to and be like, it's not the end of the world. Your time will still. So time is a factor, fate is a factor. It could be coincidence that you shouldn't have gone this getting into a law firm. Some persons can, tilt into a different area. So now I'm tilting into academia. So that tells you that other than being a commercial practitioner and a digital content creator, I'm also into the academia. And that gives me access to a lot of things. So my school does not do specialization. So that tells me that
Okay.
whether or not I like it, I have to learn or relearn again. So you have to be open to learning, unlearning, and relearning. I'm currently doing land law. And when I look at it from the other perspective, I said, okay, IP is intangible property. Land law is tangible property. So I try to look at it from that angle. That I'm still doing, basically doing almost the same thing, if not the same thing, as, you know. So if you wish to specialize, please do, but look for guidance. Um, ensure that you invest properly. Um, be open to networking with other professionals, not just your colleague. I know that we like to see ourselves, but sometimes seeing ourselves too much can be, it can hinder
So
something. So
okay,
meet other
before you
people.
move from the specialization question, uh, would you how would you advise someone that is thinking about specialization at this point? Is it follow your art or follow the money?
Money. Money at this
You said
time.
money without
So
batting an eyelid.
let me wear my
And why?
litigation hat. Let me wear my litigation hat because I think I saw a tweet where
Okay.
someone was like, how oh, in my time I was earning 20 naira. I wasn't focused about the money. In this economy now, you can't tell me not to focus about the money. But you only
Mhm.
make the money
Okay. Oh.
can you hear me?
Yes, you're back now.
My network is the one bothering us now.
Oh,
But
yeah. You have to go
okay,
through
so
this.
let's say you should specialize now. If you must and if you can pick, do you want to be a barrister, solicitor, advocate? Once you pick any of these, focus on that and run. So I think
Okay.
there was a post I was trending one time about not doing masters immediately after law school. And I was like, what are
Yeah.
people talking
Nobody
about?
cares
I did
about.
my master's before law school and I knew that coming out of law school I wanted to practice IP. Was that
Because I
passion?
was going to
Yes.
ask you a question regarding that, even because you said that your school had a problem and so you had to wait. Then you went to do your master's. So I was wondering, since you are just falling in love with IP 400 level, yeah. So what was in your motivation letter for the masters? You have to do some
I did
convincing in that letter.
motivation. Oh,
Okay.
can't remember, but I think it
Because
would be
I
a lot
think that's something that
of the money.
is that determines a lot. I remember one time I was working with an organization, and my boss, my direct boss, wanted me to do a master's at that time, and she was like, "I think I just came out of law school, maybe 1 year after law school." And she was like, "Oh, so when are you going to do your master's? Which country do you want to go to? Which school did you want to go to?" And in my heart, I was just like, I don't really want to do a master's now. Like, of course, much
Mm,
later, I developed the interest because,
yeah.
but at that point, I was thinking in my heart, what will I tell them in the personal essay that this is why I want to do it? Like, I don't really have any drive to do anything at this point. Let me just let
Yeah.
my brain just receive some fresh air. So
Okay.
you
I
were
think
so
what
I'm
works
linking
for
that to
me.
what you were saying about maybe doing masters immediately or waiting for a while. So if someone wanted to do immediately, what would be the how would you be able to put
Okay, if
something
you want to
together?
do it immediately, so my mindset then when I waited when I came back. I think then it was always Valentine period we were passing out. So February
Okay.
14th, 2013. And then I had to also put my IT course. I was in an IT course with NIIT then. So I had to defer
Okay.
it till after service. So I was like, okay, once I'm done with NIT, what next for me? And the conversation started with my dad. I think again, having a good support system helps. And I think I've had that in each area of my life, from primary school to secondary school to uni. In uni, my HOD then, well, every time I went to say hi to him, he was like, okay, when you get home, get this book or buy a book. So I was always buying books and, so I didn't want to do a regular course or a popular course. That
Okay.
was it. I didn't want to do the oil and gas. I felt it was too popular. Everybody's there. I'm not a follow the crowd person. That's me. I Instead of me to follow the crowd, I'd rather wait for it to phase out a bit and then I start. So for instance, when everyone was so when Game of Thrones came out, my ex then introduced me to Game of Thrones, and before I knew, everybody was like Game of Thrones,
Okay.
Game of Thrones. I was like,
Mhm.
what the hell? You know?
I
So
haven't
I
seen it
paused.
either.
Okay, so I paused. Even Prison Break. I've not seen Prison Break because the craze hasn't gone down. So what I'm
Okay.
saying is I didn't want to do something that everybody was doing. Oil
Mm-hmm.
and gas. I said no. Environmental law, no. This one, no. Criminal law. I was like, you know. So enjoyed reading IP. So I just started Googling masters in IP in UK, in the US. And when I saw that fusion of IP and IT, I went through the modules, the course outline, and I saw that they were really, very, very interesting topics. So in my letter, I think then I said I went through the modules. I think it's going to add value to me and make me stand out amongst all my peers, and I'm able to take that knowledge learned back home to develop this space. Something like along that line, and then how the school is one of the best, just find a way
Okay.
to hype them a little bit.
I
So read
thought,
about the
okay,
school.
okay.
So like I tell people that are considering masters, if you want, don't just go for any kind of
Hello? I'm losing your connection. Okay. Okay. You're back now. Yes, I can. But the screen is frozen. Okay. That's network, I guess.
is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. It's better now.
Great. So I was saying, going through the school outline can also help you make your decision. So we're looking
Okay.
for master's program. Just go through the modules. I think that always excites me. I recall when a friend of mine was trying to get do a master's in health law, and I saw the models the school were offering. I was like, yo, this is really tempting. I think I enjoy learning. So it's always
Mm-hmm.
exciting when I see that a school takes out their time to really put out module outlines, or course outlines there, just to explain or give you hints to what to
Okay, so
expect.
for
So
we are still on specialization. Thank you very much. I think you've touched a lot of things, that have answered some of the questions that we are going to ask you before. You still, when you talked about your journey, there was a part that you put on Twitter that I really want to talk about. There was a part you talked about, starting a firm with a colleague that then ghosted you. Then the part about you
mm,
getting a lecturer job. I really want you to touch on that, because I want us to paint a whole picture, how everything joins together, connects, to make you who you are now. That's one. Then the second thing is that if
so
okay,
you
you're
said
back. The second thing is that for specialization, do you think that a young lawyer could start out on their own, or must they pass through or join a law firm? a structured law firm, for specialization. And when I say specialization, I'm not even talking about, say, maybe someone goes to a tier one law firm and they start doing corporate commercial. I'm talking about generally, if you join a sole proprietorship that's always doing divorce, you become a divorce specialist, yeah. And if you
Definitely.
also join maybe a tier one law firm and you're in a department that does shipping and maritime, you would also become a specialist. So that's what I mean by, should you join a firm or should you just come out, from start and then just start your own thing. That, okay, this is what I want to do. For instance, okay, I want to do human rights law. So I'm going to start my law firm, start taking human rights cases, advocating for human rights online and all of that. So which route is better? Is it to join a firm or to start out on your own? Then you now come back to, the idea of starting with your friend, ghosting you, then you getting a lecturer job all in one.
Oh gosh. Let's see. Should you start a law firm immediately? I think it would depend on
Mhm.
your age. Because you also see that
Okay.
in law school and during undergrad, you had a lot of elderly persons. So I do recall that one of my colleagues then, he was elder. No, he is elder. So after law school, he started up something with another lawyer.
Right
That's
away.
right away. Now,
Okay.
for young lawyers in terms of age, maybe 21 to 30, it depends on your career path and choice. What are your career goals? Do you think getting into a law firm is a thing for you, or do you think going to work with AFCC is the right thing? I think most people, I think
Mhm.
anywhere you start is that's the beginning of your journey. So if you're opportunity to start with
Okay.
a firm
When they start from
so
the beginning of the journey.
that
I like
that
that.
does a lot of litigation, they're not specialized, so they get so let's use River State. You do a lot of chieftaincy related dispute, land related disputes, um,
Mhm.
criminal law, you'll be tilting towards that area. But then from my conversation, I see that a lot of people are not satisfied. They feel like there's something missing. So I
Yes.
think that's the point for you to start looking inwards. So anytime senator is giving a speech, he has this T lawyer diagram that he has. You need to know your strength and your weakness, all those things. Work on that. Don't say because um you're based in say let's use River State since you're based in River
Okay.
State, that means this. I mean, I don't have a choice. But then you find out that there are persons who say, okay, I want more for myself. For instance, me, I thankfully my parents, I they sponsored most of my trip. I was always going to Lagos and Abuja for trainings, conferences. I do recall when I was in law school, my first Institute of Arbitrators conference was when I was in law school. That was in 2015. And when I attended that conference, it shifted my mindset. Well, I'm not going to settle for less in this profession. I think when I was going in, I saw a lady on blue from head to toe, including her handbag, and I was like, no black and white? Are you joking? So my mindset was set that it wasn't going to be litigation, wearing wig and gown. I just knew that I was going to be a very flexible lawyer. That was one. And then again, when I took the associate training with the institute, the CIAB, I'm wearing the steak and sit. So when I took the
Yes, I
associate
can
training,
see a little.
so one of the facilitator was Mrs. Essien again. I think that was where I first
Okay.
came across her. And she mentioned that your first point of contact for networking purpose are the people you do your training with. So that my mindset as to the practice, okay, I need to meet people. I'm not a social butterfly per se, but I can be one if I'm in my with my crowd, like with people. Like I know you if I see
Mm-hmm.
you. Uh-huh. So I knew that I had to do a lot more in terms of the practice. And delving into the world that you now find out that okay, you're attending meetings late at night, your presence is needed. Nobody's cares about your dressing. Nobody say why not on white and black, why you're not fit and
Mm-hmm.
proper enough. I get that a lot in my practice where they're like this one, she's not fit and proper because she's not wearing black and white, she's not sober enough, that means she's not lawyer enough. No. So should you specialize or start up a law firm? I think your age will determine, your career goals will also determine if you're in a law firm that guides you. And also, if you have mentors, you don't need to have. So, what I've come to understand about mentorship is that it doesn't have to be formal. So, informal
Okay, yeah,
mentorship,
I agree.
have conversation with people. You may not really talk to the person, but you shadow them, see what they are up to, and all that. So if you see that this person's career path appeals to you and you want to take that same line, good for you. But I would say not to rush into it. So for me, I wasn't thinking about starting a law firm. I was thinking about getting a job in an IP
Okay.
firm or anywhere that I would be able to give them my all in terms of IP, help them build their IP. That was what I was focused on. It didn't matter to me whether it was a law firm. I think I was, like I said, I was open. So I've always had a very open and flexible mindset when it came to practice. So that made it easy for me. And again, one thing Mrs. Essence said again was, if you're getting into the arbitration, well, you don't need to be stiff. So it kind of made me think that they're just one way. If it's not this way, it's not any other way. But for arbitration, it's flexible. And if you look at the benefit of arbitration or ADR is flexible. So I came into the practice with that mindset that I needed to be flexible. You get. So starting a law firm wasn't it, but trying to make an impact and let people know the importance of what I had learned, because I was hearing things like hyperlink, people are being sued because they put a link and they not refer it, and I was like, blown. Somebody using 3 seconds of someone's song and he was sued but settled out of court. So you see, you come across very interesting cases of ordinary plant and seed. Someone was sued because the breeze blew the seed to the other fence and it pollinated and became. So I'm like, that's not what I'm hearing back home when I left Nigeria. I do recall when I was to leave Nigeria at the airport. So my mom is Steve, and she gets really excited when she meets her people. So we met this lady at the airport that spoke Steve, and my mom followed me to Lagos. She waited with me till 4. My flight was for 11 p.m., but she had to go back to Port Harcourt. So she left me in the hands of this lady, and this lady goes, "Why are you making your parents spend so much to go and school abroad?" And I was like, "Because I want to get the best." And I do believe I got the best when I went to University of Delhi because my mind was open. So coming back home, I wasn't thinking of, I started my law firm. No, my goal was, okay, let me get somewhere that I can start up and then learn and then build on that. So your career goal will define how you want to progress in the practice. If you feel you already set, so let's use people that are elderly that are going to read law. They are still considered to be young lawyers because young lawyers are 0 or 1 to 7. Nobody cares about your age.
Mm-hmm.
Your age may only give you an advantage if you're in the litigation world where everyone is so particular about when were you called and your senior at the bar, all those things. When you're in the commercial world, nobody cares about your year of call. It's what you have upstairs and you're bringing to the table that will determine whether you are knowledgeable or a mistake. So when I left Infusion Lawyers, we parted ways on mutual grounds.
Okay.
And I was wondering what to do. So I talked to my dad then and okay, I told him this is what happened and I'm thinking of setting up my own specialized IP consulting. I was in a consulting firm basically. And he was okay. So we kind of came up with names, a combination of all my names, and we ended up with Pado. So you have to do registration, CAC registration, all this stuff like that. And then early early 2020 out to me. We see ourselves during the NBA meeting, and she's also an arbitrator. And she tells me she wanted us to start up this resolution firm. I will build the IP aspect, she will build the DR aspect. And conversation started, you know, and she already had the foundation in terms of having the law firm. We're talking about getting a space, organizing
Okay.
events, all those things. And one day she just disappeared, called, texted, and so people already said linking us prior to she ghosting me. People already said knowing that okay, we were doing stuff together,
There we
you
go.
know. So when that happened, I got a few calls like, "What's up with your partner?" I was like, "Ah." I'm not sure. Maybe phone is down or something. But she wasn't responding or talking to anybody. And that kind of upset because I it's kind of like when someone like you're in a relationship and the person just disappears, no explanation, nothing. So you're just
Mm-hmm.
left there wondering, did I do something? What went wrong? Is she fine? Okay, let me be level headed. So I said, okay, I'll give her time. But she never came back. So I said, okay, if this did not work out, let me just focus. I was doing my own thing before then. So I just went back to, building my consultancy firm, you know, and that was the same period that I got recognized by the World Intellectual Property Review body as a trailblazer from Nigeria. So that kind of
Okay.
also boosted my IP profile internationally and regionally and locally as well. So I said, okay, I already have this, and I started my podcast. So I was just focusing on building my area of specialty, trying to be one of the best in Nigeria, all of those things. So great. I think we saw a year or two later, and she just said hi, hi. That was all I
Wow.
got. So am I paying? Yes. Do I need an expression from her? I don't need it anymore. I mean, whatever. Um. So yeah, would I do it again in terms of starting up my law firm? I think if you're going to start up a law firm, you need to have um a plan. How are
Yeah.
you going to start? Do you want to go into collaboration with someone? If yes, your goals need to be aligned so nobody breaks your heart in the process. Document. I know we are lawyers, we like to talk, but please document. I think as an IP practitioner, I know that documentation will help you a lot when it comes to defining certain things. I'm big on boundaries, so I think I'm going to hammer on documenting to be able to create boundaries. You know where it's work and when it's not work. What was the other angle we talked about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Getting a
I think
lecturing job.
yeah, so my mom had been trying to set me up for a very long time, saying, why don't you go? Because it's when you're specializing, you will make money initially, you get,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people are still trying to, what she really is. So you give someone an invoice and they're like, ooh, you know, all these kind of things. You don't really make money at first. There's money to be made. But in order for you to make that money, you need to show and prove. Sometimes someone might decide to take a gamble on you. So as a young lawyer, or I don't like that term, young lawyer. As a lawyer starting up, I think
Okay, you
that's
don't like
it.
the,
Why
the term young lawyer.
we are all lawyers, whether
Of
you're
course.
old or we are all
Of course. The
lawyers.
reason why I always
Yeah,
qualify, each time I say lawyer, the reason why I always say young lawyer on my channel is that older lawyers they watch my channel because they give me feedback, and their associates at their law firms tell me that my boss is
yeah.
watching you this and that. So I always qualify. I'm talking to young lawyers so that somebody will not come and say, "When were you called? What gives you the right to talk to us?"
I
So if
I
once
think
I've calmed it down like that, I will know that
we obsessed
I'm
we are
I'm
so
respecting
obsessed with
myself
that
already. So
when
don't
were you
disrespect will
called.
come.
And I don't know why. We are so obsessed with when were you called. Like seriously, it's not about when you were called, it's what impact you end up
It's
making.
a big deal
One
for a
of my
lot of
prayers
people.
is
So
apologies for that. I need to turn on my secondary light. I think when it comes to okay, hold on. You can see I'm not too dark, so I'm sure you can still see me, right?
yes, yes, yes.
This is my ring light and I'm using my
Before
universal
that
light
mine
as
went
they
up
call it.
to like to the second power bank. It's God that will
Oh
deliver us in
gosh.
Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah, so how
So
you got into
yeah.
lecturing?
So then it felt like to my parents, I think pre 2020, pre when I got my international recognition, my
Okay.
dad were like, this IP and administration you are doing, are you fine with it? Are you sure? My dad was like, need to consider working with NGC. I was like, never. I was like, why? I said, this IP, I go maker and I want to focus on this area. And he says, okay. So my parents are very supportive as long as you detail out your plan. And I kept insisting, this is what I want to do. But my mom was like, why don't you consider lecturing? And I was like, you know, if I lecture, they won't let me specialize, and I want to be focused on my area of specialty. So every year she comes with, why don't you consider? Why don't you consider? So I finally gave in
Okay.
because we had this. So there was a call for people to apply. I think early last year in River State. I was late 2 years ago, 2021, and I deliberately did not apply. And my dad closed it because he
Okay.
sent me the publication. And like, did you apply? I was like, no. He was like, why? I was like, I already told you guys, I'm focused on building my IP practice. And he goes, you can do them at the same time. I was like, yeah. So he said, okay, talk to my cousin. And I talked to his cousin. And my cousin was like, oh, he won't let you specialize. I was like, that's already not something I really want to delve into. But I gave it a lot of thoughts. And because with what I've done so far, I get mails, messages from people, and I had the students there reach out. I think I'm close. I was close, or I'm still close to like two or three of the students. They are ex-students right now. They
Okay.
had an interest in IP and they're trying to set up their IP club. I said, okay, if you guys are thinking about this, and I think your school is tilting towards, setting up an IP, setting up IP or teaching IP in this school, so I'll give it a shot. So I applied physically and also sent my application via the email that was shared. And I didn't think much of it. With getting government job, there's so much conversation
Mhm.
about tribe, man no man, etc. etc.
Yeah,
So I
who
was
you
like, okay, if
know,
I get it,
connection.
yeah. So I was like, okay, if I get it, fine. If I don't get it, cool. You know. So I get a text message one day saying, come for an interview. I was like, okay. And I go for the interview, and the whole scene was, it was I reserved my comment, but I sha went for the interview and
Mhm.
I spent the whole day there. I went in the morning and I left there around this time, past 6. So it's not because okay, there was a crowd. You had to take numbers, I had to sit for long. I didn't expect to wait that long. I just thought it was something I just breeze in, breeze out. But in all of this, I was still applying for jobs both in Nigeria and internationally. LinkedIn, God bless LinkedIn. Just upload your
Mhm.
CV, So I was always applying. I think one time a friend asked me, are you actually applying for jobs? And I had to show her a screenshot of how many jobs I had applied for. Just LinkedIn, not talking about the other ones, you know. So that was when I finished the interview, I didn't think much of it again. Then next thing we heard, people have gotten letters. My friend was like, okay, go and check if you were successful. I go and I see my letter, but there's a mistake in my name, you know. So being who I am and my father's daughter, who is very particular about how our names are being spelled, I just told them there's an issue with my name.
That's the surname or the name.
Sorry?
Which one are the mistake? Which one are
My
the mistakes?
surname. It's either my surname or my
Oh,
middle name. So someone would like to spell it for me while they think I spell Anwiri and you're spelling Anwuri with a U. That's not my name.
okay.
You spell Chinda without a H. That's still not my surname. Though it's my family's name, but my dad uses a H just to differentiate himself from his siblings. So that caused a bit of an issue. Got my letter. At some point, he said, okay, it's not going to really be an issue because when I'm doing my accreditation and all those things, documentation, I can always correct it. So yeah, that's how lecturing started. It's been one
So
year
you still
already.
lecture now?
I'll say, I beg your pardon.
You still lecture now?
Yes, a
And what you
tutorial
teach IP?
lecturer. No.
Oh,
So
that's
remember
what I
I
wanted to
stated
know.
that
But I wanted to see if it was connected to IP, if it was different.
no, it's different. So I think last year when we had our NUC accreditation, it was one of the courses that was recommended, and the school said they will commence this session. So we'll see. But like I stated, no specialized course.
It's frozen again. Oh God, deliver us from network.
Okay, so I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
You follow them to class. You follow them to class to see how teaching is done, so that you're getting the template right and not
Okay.
doing it.
So what do you teach?
Are you there? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. What do you teach?
Land law.
Land law. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. That's
so
why you mentioned that
tangible and
land law
intangible.
and IP, the
Yeah,
tangible and intangible properties. I think that
yeah.
do you know why I'm very interested in your story? Because there are some things that are similar in our journey. Yeah. Like I had to wait a year before going to law school. Of course, it's nothing compared to yours. It was just 1 year. And it was because my school, everyone has to wait for 1 year in my school
Oh,
before you
what
go
school
to
is
law
that?
school. University of Ibadan. So everybody has to wait
Ah,
for 1 year. Yeah. So each set wait for 1 year. I think it started like two sets before my. I don't know if they've corrected it now. That's one. Then two is that I also work for government at the moment. And it was because my dad wanted me to go do it. It was just like yours. My dad was just like, apply, apply. I was like, I'm not interested. He just said, just. And then I wasn't expecting anything. Like you, I got a text message. They said, no, I didn't get a text message. I traveled and they said that interview is tomorrow. I was like, nobody thought to contact me. So what if I got somewhere else? So they just said, Google. I went. There was a crowd, a lot of people. It wasn't what I expected. The questions were so. Let's not go into that like yours. And then I got a text later saying that I had gotten the job. I remember I was asked to pick up my letter a day to Christmas. Pick my letter, go back on Christmas Eve, and all of that. So that's why I'm currently engaged at a government facility. So, but also prior to that, I had started a law firm with a colleague that has also ghosted me. So you see, there's a lot of similarities. That has also ghosted me because I remember that the last time was like before I got this job. You know that when you work for government, you can't do some other things. So I had a matter in court and was supposed to file written address. This guy was supposed to do it because he had been to court to represent me in the matter, and he was getting all the payment that was supposed to get. So I was expecting that he would file the address. So I was expecting that you file the written address, and then he just kept postponing, kept telling me, I'll file it, I'll write it till today. I never got that written address. I, working for government in another state, had to contact the court, get records of proceedings, and write the written address, even though I wasn't the one that was appearing in the matter. And this was someone that was supposed to be my partner, in fact, lead partner. So it was basically like I was ghosted. Till today, he never sent me the written address and he never tendered an apology or said, oh, this is why, sorry, nothing. I just filed the address and I moved on. I'm sure maybe when I see him too, maybe he'll give me more than a high. I wouldn't know. But so those are the similarities why I really wanted to hear your story, like, because I feel like someone when you hear someone talk about something that you've probably been through, it might not be the same measure, in comparison. It helps you put a lot of things in perspective. So I'd say that apart from people that are going to watch this session, it's helped me to put a lot of things in perspective. So I'm going to ask the next question. How I think you've touched on it generally because telling your story really just went over most of my questions. So, but how lucrative? Yes, I wanted to say too that I also have a problem with our dress code. Where I currently work, I love the work that I do as a mediator. It's
You
so
don't want to go
perfect.
there. You don't want to go there.
But someone is always gawking at you. Why are you dressed like this? We're supposed to wear this. Even on Fridays, you cannot even dress down in peace. So I went to a place on my when I was on leave this year. I went to the an establishment, and their lead counsel, their in-house counsel, like general legal officer, was wearing this senator outfit that men wear to parties on a Thursday. I was so happy on this side that God, I want to work here just for the dressing. I just want to relax. I want to relax. I want to relax. I don't want someone monitoring what are you wearing. Is that the and the funny thing is that at my place of work we don't have a dress code. Like it's not as if anything is cast in stone or there's a printed format that this is what. But someone is just always waiting to see what you will wear and then to jump
So
at you. So
I'll tell you a story that happened to me in October. So sometimes when I go all out to dress, it might depend on the topic and where I'll be going. So I was invited to speak to Young Lawyers
okay.
Conference in Port Harcourt. And I have one of my stars friends, she's the one that assists me. She's like my stylist. So when I have events, I just tell her, I'm speaking here, this is the topic, this is what I want to do. And then she comes up with the whole idea of, I think this will suit you for the event. So she picks a neon slash lemon fabric for me. And I was like, for the people I'm going to speak to, I think this is too loud. And she goes, no, it's perfect. And I said, okay. She shows me the style, it gets done. On the day of the event, go to get my makeup, try to glamour. And I arrive at the venue. I'm walking in. They welcome me in as speaker. I was going to sit, and a lady asked someone to call me back. So I turned and see she's an elderly person. So I walked back and said, good morning, ma'am. Then she goes, are you a lawyer? And I said, yes. She said, why are you dressed like this? And I said, how am I dressed? She said, you're not sober enough. And I said, I'm not
I'm not
attending as a
informed.
participant. I'm not attending as a participant, but a speaker. She said, even though you're coming to speak to lawyers. I was like, then she goes, if your house is not far, you need to go back and change. And I was like, that's not
She
going
said
to
you have to go
happen.
back and change.
I said that's not going to happen. So she calls the YLF chairman and said, do you know this lady? I said, yeah, she's one of our speakers. So she said, where's her session? So she shows him the session I'm speaking. So my session was on legopreneur. I'm not going to go there dressed in black and white. I'm going to go there dressed as a legopreneur. That was the mindset. Then
Mhm.
she goes, I won't enter the hall if I don't go to change. I will stay outside and speak. And I was like, ah. So not to be rude, I just kept standing on the spot. So when people that knew me came like, babe, what's up? I was like, so someone's going to say hi to me and she's monitoring me like, you can't go in, you can't go in, you can't go in. I'm not going to walk
Is
out
she
of it
one of the
because I
organizers or a
so
participant?
I later found out that she's an officer of the institute where the venue was taking place and she was a retired magistrate. And then I
Oh,
just said, so I said I was going to use that as my opening remark when I was presenting. And I said, this is why practitioners within our jurisdictions are where they are because we don't have an open mindset when it comes to a lot of things. I've been
mm-hmm.
asked to stay in meetings because we had the other parties were in a different time zone. That meeting started at 11 and we finished at 1 a.m. I should have been sleeping by then or doing something else. Someone said, oh, I need you to follow me for meetings. That meeting was going to take between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. I'm not going to wear white and black. I have to dress
Mm-hmm.
down or dress so that when I go there, nobody's feeling somehow like you can't, like making it obvious that you're actually a lawyer because people have this mindset that lawyers are difficult to get or lawyers are too expensive. And I tell people that's relative. If you don't value the services that we offer, then you always think our services are expensive. So that issue of dressing is a normal thing. So we have conferences. I had one during the conference. I went to see a family friend and I was coming, let's hitch a ride together. And he goes, are you a lawyer? And I was like, yes, and you're dressed like this. I was like, oh God, this conference we came for, not appearing in court. If I'm going to court, I know I have to wear black and white. As a lecturer, we're not allowed to experiment with color, but some days are very flexible where you see people wearing like a very sober color. So for guys that wear this senator material, they wear maybe a navy blue or a brown or something, but not something shouting. So I understand workplace ethics and your dress as you what's that thing? How your dress is how people will address you, something like that. I get that. But I think for us here in Nigeria or for those within this the southern region and some areas that don't really have specialists law firms or people that specialize. Everyone is already like when they see you, they want to see you in black and white and nothing more, nothing less. So you dressing like that means you're not part of the crowd. So
Mm-hmm.
I do recall one time I went for a meeting and what happened? I think I wore a navy blue and the lady was like, ah, today you're wearing navy blue. And I'm like, yeah, I'm coming for a meeting. But I've attended Lagos branch meeting and I see how everyone, they're not dressing down, but everybody is corporately dressed, but the ambience is not so stiff, not tensed. So I think that's something that we have to work on within certain jurisdictions that are not open to certain things because the world is evolving. I mean, the pandemic happened and a lot of them
Exactly.
had to transition or start having a hybrid practice. You come in today and this person doesn't come in today, all those things. I was working remotely, so I was already used to not going into the office all the time, you know. And now with talks of AI, everybody's threatening. So someone tagged me on a post the other day on LinkedIn where someone said you don't need a lawyer to explain. This is what they used something about too much legalese in contrast. You can just use ChatGPT. And I said, you guys are always looking for ways to do away with lawyer. What did you do to you guys? We just tell you the truth. You may not see it from our perspective, but we always see. It's like my friend. He's a core litigator, and he said, "What I would see as a litigator is what you, as a commercial transaction lawyer, will not see." That's the beauty. So if you're a specialist that is into the litigation aspect and also into the commercial transaction aspect, you benefit from both worlds. If you're in the academia, you're regarded as an expert the more you write about an area. So if the school is
Mm-hmm.
looking for someone to represent them at an event on this area of topic, you'll be the go-to person because all the publications that you have published are within a particular area. And again, having people to mention your name in rooms where you're not present is if you're not putting out stuffs out there,
Mm-hmm.
taking advantage of you know um your digital footprint, nobody's going to know you. If you like, be the best of the best. I've had the opportunity of meeting a very senior media lawyer, just someone that did media law for over 25 years and excelled in his practice. It was in a class I was presenting and I felt really honored because I was like, this na big man wey dey sit down for my class. Did he actually need my class? Yes and no. But he was there to learn. So even as you grow in the practice, you can't just say, oh, because I'm an expert here, I don't need to learn. No. I think during the pandemic, I was always sharing a lot of links for webinars, and people were like, "Ah, you're every." I said, "No, I may not be interested in that area, but some other persons may be interested in that. So if you want to build capacity, here's the event. I will always attend IP events. I will always attend IT related events. I will always attend arbitration related events. That's because I'm intentional. So you have to be intentional. You have to stay consistent. They also have to have build your mental strength, your mental health. You also need to be able to balance the world of being a popular person and being a regular person. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, it
So
does
most
make
people
sense.
most people address me as if you address me as Anwiri, I have an idea of where you know me. If you address me as Margarita, I have an idea of where you know me. If you address me as Rita, I know where you know me. If you address me as Dome, I know where you know me. If you address me as Patricia, I know where you know me. So sometimes when
All these are your
I
names.
go for it, all these are my names, yes. So
Mm-hmm.
if you address me as so I go for an event and someone's like, are you the so I'm already like my defense is already up because one, I'm there as a participant and not as me. I'm there to learn, not because I know it
Mm-hmm.
all, but if you come in here, I would update my knowledge. If someone makes an assertion that is not true, then I may be forced to raise up my hands to make a contribution by not being condescending, but saying I would like to make a contribution to what X has stated. Sometimes you go for events and they're saying something that you already know, but because they've
Mm-hmm.
mentioned something you want to get a better clarification about it, you ask questions. So I've had events where I asked a question during a conference, and one of the seniors after the sessions came to me and said, "Shay, that person didn't answer your question." I said, "Sort of." And he said, "Your question was very." I think I got three comments and feedback about the questions I asked. So sometimes it's not like you want to show off, but then because you have put in the work, you won't want someone to belittle your effort. I don't. I mean, you can't believe whatever effort I've put in. I won't say I'm an expert. Okay, I'm an expert, yes. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
manifesting and affirming that you are the expert. But you know that you are still learning on the job, especially now when you're dealing with AI. 2 years ago it was NFTs. I've never finished studying that one. We've moved to metaverse. Now it's all about AI generated works. Those are the issues. What's going to come up in 2024?
There was
We are
blockchain in
uncertain.
2021 too.
I beg your pardon?
I said there was blockchain in 2021 too.
It's still there. Oh, crypto is still there. It's still
Mm-hmm.
there. But
Yeah,
then
so
there's like an
blockchain.
interplay in all of these conversations and trends that are building up. The after agreement is still there. All of it is just positioning and waiting for when everything will kickstart. So, like Miss Kemi stated in one of her trainings, she said opportunity meets preparedness. Yeah.
Preparation. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So if you're not
So,
building as a lawyer, whether you want to specialize or not, if you're not doing the needful, and then the opportunity comes for you to do this, you're not lacking in one thing or the other. You've lost it,
okay.
Abby. So no knowledge is a waste. Some things are coincidental, is a coincidence. Some things are fate. Some things are just meant
Mm-hmm.
to happen. If you're a Christian or Muslim or whatever it is you believe in, pray about it.
So
As
I have a
a
question from what you just said. But before I go to that question, what I can put together from everything you have said so far now is that it's okay to specialize, but a route that may be smart, which is what has worked for you, is that be very open, then do other things, and then push your specialization by content and publication, because that's how
branding,
we
not
know
just
you.
that. I'll say branding. You need to. So
Branding, okay,
when I
branding.
worked in infusion lawyers, that's having to differentiate between Anwiri as a brand and infusion lawyers was something that I learned early. So it's kind of like when they say your 9 to 5 is for the corporation or organization you work for. Whatever you
Mm-hmm.
do with the remaining hours, that's when you should
Okay.
be building on your brand.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? So
So,
let's say um at 1 p.m. my classes are Mondays, Wednesdays. I have Mondays 8 to 9:30, Wednesdays 1 to 2:30. So within that time frame, I should not be doing anything IP series, or I should not
okay.
fix a speaking engagement within that time frame or that timeline. Whatever I
Mm-hmm.
do after then is me working on my brand. It doesn't necessarily have to be creative. I think a lot of lawyers now have keyed into creating content. Are we doing it the right way? You now have questions as to whether we are going against RPC or in terms of publicizing or doing adverts. Those conversations too tricky.
Let's
Don't do comment. You want to share knowledge,
down
but don't
specification.
do it because everybody is creating content or building content, or they told you that if you create content, you are going to become an expert that way. No. Just like we have now where user generated content, there's a short lifespan on how to get people to pay attention to your content. Now you have to now work towards that. And then you're now having to balance all of that with being a lawyer or being a lecturer or being head of department of an organization, whatever it is. So while you're branding, learn how to balance things and
Not to separate from your employer. And I think that you have introduced us to a different brand of specialization. And I like it. I like it. Which is that you can actually have a day job, like a traditional employment, while still having a niche that is different from your traditional employment. I think that's very important. I think that most lawyers, well, let me not speak for most lawyers, let me say that maybe the idea that was popular before was that if you're specializing, then your whole life, your entire career has to be about that area of law. But now, I think from what you have said, it's clear that you can actually specialize niche in an area that tickles your fancy, while being open to doing other jobs that bring in money, or even having an employment. And I think that's really cool. So, what I wanted to ask before we look at other uh, things are that if someone were to maybe want to decide that, okay, I want to specialize, you've covered it a bit, but I want you to just go over it again. what are the first considerations, like, or the most important considerations for specializing in Nigeria today?
Your location,
Okay.
that's one. So I think it took a lot of people time to understand or know that I wasn't based in Lagos because
In
the
Lagos,
perception was,
because everything right now falls on Lagos, Nigeria, especially
yes.
online. Everybody believes they are in Lagos.
So I made it a, as in my point of duty to always introduce myself as Rita Anwiri Chindah from Port Harcourt. So
Okay.
for every time someone told me like, "Oh, you're the lady from Port Harcourt," you're the lady from Port Harcourt. So it took a while for people to disassociate me from being a Lagosian. Not that being a Lagosian is a bad thing, no.
Of
But
course, of
I
course.
think I broke that mindset that Lagos is the only place or Abuja is the only place where specialization can thrive. Even I think even in my decision, it took a while for people to understand that working remotely wasn't a bad thing, especially when the pandemic happened. It kind of opened everybody's mindset that there's more to the
So
practice. So
location,
location matters.
number one.
I think at some point I wanted to relocate to Lagos. I think again, no, I know when I was in law school, my roommates and I and one of our friends, we had agreed we're going to, stay in Lagos together, get an apartment, and stuff like that. But that didn't work out. So don't be pressurized into feeling like only Lagos lawyers can make it. No, you can be anywhere and make it. And I think that's the beauty of the internet right now.
Uh-huh.
You can be global from anywhere as long as you have our influencer lights that you can use during meetings, good internet. Hi.
Hello, it's frozen. Okay,
Can you hear me?
okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. Yes,
I
you're
can
back.
hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? My goal has always been to be different. So my uni's logo slogan then was a school with a difference. I don't know if I say a school with a difference. So wanting to be different from every other person in the legal profession. And in order for me to do that, I had to be focused, determined, and consistent.
Okay. So you
I think
mentioned
I've forgotten your
location.
question. Yeah, so location, one. Then secondly, work on your career goals. I do recall that when I participated in the African Young Arbitrators Mentorship Program, one of the questions that my mentor that I was assigned to then asked me was, what was my career goals as an arbitrator? So once you figure out what your career goal is, my career goal then used to be, I think in law school then we had this end of yearbook, and I wrote I'd like to work for the World Intellectual Property Organization, head a department, be the IP head or something. Too many dreams and goals. Your dreams are always valid. Like this lady says, what's that her name now? The
Okay.
lady on low court. Yeah. So your dreams are valid. So your goal will also guide you in terms of specialization. Have I worked with WIPO in WIPO office? No. But I was a facilitator in the IP summer school. Kudos and thanks to Juliana. She was one that made that happen. She recommended me. So I would say in some way I've ticked that box. Now, being
Okay.
an expert in my area of practice, I've worked really hard on IP and also developing my IT skills and also developing my arbitration knowledge and dispute resolution knowledge. I attend events. I do my best to travel and I cut my coat according to my size. Most times I go by road because it saves me cost. I have to fund myself. Sometimes you're lucky enough you go by air because you have excess money or maybe the person that wants your presence is able to afford that. Second, fourthly, I would say mentorship. Not big
Mhm.
on it, but you can get a mentor to help you, either informally or formally.
Yeah, I
The
think
person
are
can.
you particular about mentorship, or would you say it's more of role modeling? Because I think for mentorship, you have to. I've thought about it since
I tilt
we mentioned it
I
earlier.
tilt more into informal mentorship than formal
Okay,
mentorship. Informal
because you said
mentorship in
you
the
can do
sense
from
that
afar. Is
yes,
that
I can look
mentorship?
from afar.
Mm,
Informal mentorship is there's no it's not official that I'm listed as your mentor.
okay,
But once in a while, because of the relationship I've built with you, I can call you to talk to you about something or visit you,
okay,
or just watch how you do your things in the legal profession or in other areas of the profession, not just law. How
okay,
does this person behave? Is this someone I would like to imitate? What is the person's work ethics? And not being too invasive or being end up being a stalker or a burden to the person. You also, and again, you can also build a relationship that now goes beyond you just being a mentee. The formal mentorship for me now requires you being more intentional because you're responsible for someone. It's either within a timeline, say, so the one I just concluded was 4 weeks with the MIPLG. So
okay,
4 weeks to deal with two mentees that are assigned to me on IP and any other area they are interested in. So that one now I have to really talk to you. What do you really want to do? How can I help you? You also have to make it a two-way thing. You're the one that need the mentorship, not me. But if you find out that the mentor that was assigned to you or the mentee that was assigned to you is not serious, how do you then juggle that? Do you feel bad about it, or do you just go with the flow? I don't know. So I think for formal mentorship is a bit more tedious. Or unlike when it's an informal mentorship, there's no okay, I have to give you this. So in informal relationship, I can send you stuffs when I see them. I think okay, this might be very important for you. Then there's
mm-hmm.
also taking advantage of community. Um, not
Community.
so many. Yes.
Okay,
Another thing again that helped me was having an accountability partner. So my partners are Beverly Bakuba. You may know her. She's into sports compliance and governance. She was a sports team
okay.
called the Tigers. Then there's Ridwan, who I call my buddy. He's to me, he's like a data protection king. You Someone
Yeah,
who's
okay,
very
read
well
one more
versed in.
day. I think I know
Yeah.
him.
Then there's Faith Obafemi. So once in a while, we used to have, not collectively, but maybe individually. One of us might reach out to each other just to check up on each other, career wise, talk about everything. So
Okay,
I know the last time was Beverly and I set some goals. But the older you get in the profession and being an expert in an area, you tend to get busy with a lot of things. So your goals and your dreams are in between all of those things. You now have to find a balance on how to merge all of them together. So we set up goals for ourselves, what we're going to do between September and December. I'm not sure we've gone through half of our list, but and you get what I'm saying. So there's big one
yeah,
as well. Sometimes we have calls like I think I've not seen with one in like a year or two. But when we see physically, the conversation is long. I do recall when we last saw at the SLP immediately after the pandemic at that took place in Akwa Ibom. We were supposed to go. I and my friends and some colleagues were supposed to go to the beach in Akwa Ibom, but because Ridwan was speaking at a session, I had to give that up. I had to keep going up to. It wasn't bad because I actually enjoyed the session, and I was like, okay, this is my friend. This is my friend. And prior to that, we had conversations about career, personal lives, and things we want to do.
okay. So that's
Collaborating.
community and having an accountability partner.
Yeah,
I
so
think
Faith
that's
was also
good.
the person that encouraged me into starting a podcast. So every one of these persons have played a role in my life in some way. I also have seniors that when we see, we have conversations like, okay, what's up with practice? What are you doing? Just have that random conversation. I'm not going to call names, but then there are a few senior lawyers and non-lawyers in my life that I have those. I'll say they're like my informal accountability partners,
Mhm.
something like that. So yeah,
Okay, thank you very much. So we're at the tail end. I need to go through some of these questions because I think they're important. I've said that we've talked
okay.
about the most important considerations and things that you need to, put in place for you to specialize as a lawyer. And I think most importantly, we've talked about specialization not necessarily being in Nigeria, not necessarily being picking up one thing and then abandoning the rest of it. Law, the other aspects of law, but just niching in an area of interest to you while being open to doing other things. So since IP is your only area of interest, yeah, although you're doing other things, what's the most interesting thing about your area of specialization for you as a person?
It's fun. It's fun. I think the beauty about I like to say I enjoy behind the scene because it helps you get into the mind of the creative or the inventor. You see the thought process and the efforts that the person has put in. You don't have to now consider your jurisdiction. What
Okay.
are the IP laws that apply? How effective it is? What are the enforcements available? What are the dispute resolution mechanism put in place? What are the due diligence that have been put in place? Do they have a community that they can rely on? Is there enough data, statistics? What is the office doing? That's the IPOs. What are the law firms that specialize in that area doing? What is happening internationally? I think international cases excites me more
Mm-hmm.
when the
Oh, it's frozen. Oh, what happened? Okay, so our guest is going to join us shortly, I hope. We're at the tail end of this session. It's been a very interesting session. Like I say in most of my sessions, personally, I'm learning a lot and I've, I've benefited a lot from this session already. There are things I'm going to mull over and things I'm going to, put in place because of the direction that I've gotten from this session. So I hope that when you watch it as well, you find, some light for your journey, whether you're a lawyer, law student, or a layman. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'm waiting for our guest to rejoin us so that we can tie things up. And I really want her to also share, her contact details, what she does, how you can reach her, how you can benefit from her IP practice, before we tie it up. Here, thank you to everyone that has subscribed. I think our guest is coming back. Yes. Welcome back. Welcome back.
thank you. Thank you. So sorry about that.
No problem.
Um, what was I saying?
Yes, we were talking
Oh
about
my.
the.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see how the IP space keeps evolving. Yeah, so I'm saying that it's interesting to see how the IP space is evolving on the international level. And I think again, the zeal for IP owners to want to enforce their rights in Nigeria commenced officially post the pandemic. And I think that's
Okay.
because during the pandemic, everyone was at home, but the creative sectors, the inventors, everyone was just seated at home and seeing your counterparts in other jurisdictions still, making money, generating revenue was like the light bulb. So now everyone is there's a lot of conversation on documentation, IP registration. There's a lot more conversation within the space on taking IP more seriously, which is a good thing to see. Um, like I stated, when I was doing my master's, the case that really took me off were two cases, oh, three, which I mentioned. The plant variety genetic case,
Mm-hmm.
the green red beans case, the 3 second case that Jay-Z was sued and then they settled out of court, and then the hyperlink case of the, what's that thing now? Hmm. Is Meta something? No, I've forgotten the case, sha. But
Okay.
someone used a link and did not acknowledge the owner of the link, something like that, like, you
Oh,
know.
okay.
So it was very interesting to see, and also learning about IP in the digital age in terms of when people use AdWords to misdirect consumers to their platforms. All those things were exciting to see. Meta tags as well, very interesting. Then dealing with cross-border related dispute, child privacy, where children, some sites that children are not really meant to have access to, but they have access to them, getting the data of underage, where do you draw the line when it comes to a minor's IP, all these conversations. It was interesting to see that they were having this kind of, and I felt like if I'd done my master's here, I'm not sure I'd have gotten that much information. Not to talk down on the experts, bless you, not to talk down on the
Thank you.
experts within our jurisdiction, but then it just opened my mind as to the possibility when it came to IP. So it's always interesting. Now we are talking about generative work, and we just passed our Copyright Act that is just dealing with takedown notices and border measures and um, special provisions for people with disabilities, etc., etc. We also have the arbitration as a list IP disputes such as licensing and distribution as the type of dispute that can be arbitrated or mediated, all those things. So I think the development is one thing that in cases, again, now we're talking AI related arts, AI regulations and all those things in other jurisdiction. You know, I mean, our government, we keep saying we are tech, but when you look at it on the scale of what is happening internationally, I don't think we are there yet, but we are definitely on our way there. So yeah, that's what interests me about IP. Reading about these cases, getting to do a comparison with their development and seeing how you can make a difference in terms of advocacy and educating people, and I think that's basically it for me, Sha.
Okay. So the development excites you.
Yeah.
So before we, I want you to tell us about the particular IP. Then I want you to tell us about your podcast, then how people can reach you, and how people can also interact with you as a lawyer, especially working as a mediator for now. I've been a mediator for 3 years. So
Nice.
I had some interns come into my session a few weeks ago, and then they were asking a lot of questions because they needed to record those things. So they someone asked me that what spurred me into mediation, like what birthed my mediation journey. And I just flippantly just answered nothing. They just posted me here, and I started the mediation. And that's true, actually. It's not as if maybe I just woke up one day, or maybe when I was born, I was thinking, oh, I want to be a mediator. But it's just something,
Mm.
it's more like an accidental, I wouldn't call it accidental, but, something that happened on the job, yeah? So they posted me to the mediation center and I started working there. And I love what I do.
Yeah.
If I've built some level of expertise in mediation now, and I really like the fact that it's a very easy way to bring justice to decentralize access to justice in a way, so that people
Mm.
that can't even get that in court, they can get it in mediation. But it's not as if maybe I plan to specialize, but now I've specialized in mediation. So if tomorrow now my employers decide we want to post you to another government facility, you know,
Mm.
I would have to start doing something else. So, do you think, can we call, I look at it as situational specialization. So, is that also something in regarding specialization or niche? Yeah, that's the question.
Your question is long, oh.
Yeah, so but did you get a hang of it? Like, for instance, someone might get a job, in a tier one law firm. Okay, now I know a guy, he's my senior at the bank. So I interned
Mm.
at a law firm uh, where he used to practice. I met him there. So what they do is like what you described, like it's the bulk of the what they do in Port Harcourt. In that jurisdiction, we do security, land, and criminal law.
Mm.
That's what the principal does. It's a sole proprietorship, but it's a large practice. Not large, but it's a big practice, big, not large. But that's what they do. Those three areas are like the core areas. So it was there for like 5 years. Then he moved to Lagos, got a job with a tier two law firm, and now he has moved to a tier one law firm, and he's doing corporate commercial now and all of that. When he was in that other law firm, he was like the top guy, the go-to guy. He was really good in those chieftaincy, land, criminal law. But now he has switched to commercial, corporate commercial. So can we? That's like I see that too as a situational specialization. So what do you think about that? And is it a thing or is it just general practice?
No knowledge is a waste. No knowledge is a waste.
Okay.
Remember, I talked about SA. She told us the story of how she started in the banking industry and how it helped her. So no knowledge is a waste. And the beauty of that is when you get a brief, you become the expert or
Okay.
um lead projects or project leads on the case. You really want to guide people on how to go, what to do, where to research, which is not a bad thing. But then there will not be too much expectations from you, and then if you do not control the way it's done, you might start seeing yourself as a mini god, which is bad. Because like they say, God forbid that you know everything, and you definitely do not know everything. I'm also open to learning and having conversation with people. Um, so if you find out that in the course of your career progression, you're always delving into different area, that's an added
Mm.
advantage for you
Okay. You think
because
so?
yes, it is. So let's say picture yourself in the next 10, 15 years. You never know where your big break will come from. It's like for creatives who always say you never know when you will blow. If you blow anytime, the song that you never envisioned to be a hit could become
That's
the
true.
hit song for you. So that area on chieftaincy that you never envisioned will take you anywhere. You could just get a huge brief from the Oba of somewhere or the king of this, and then you're calling as an expert um, witness or an expert in that area, consultant. You can become a consultant based on your knowledge. So
Okay.
I wrote I wrote about the Business Facilitation Act and also the River State Multi-Door Small Claims Court that was recently set up. And someone referred me to a project because I had spoken about these two things that were being deliberated for that project. Though it hasn't gone official, but it was interesting to see that the fact that I put in effort means meant that when the opportunity came, I was considered as the go-to person. That's the importance of institutional specialization. So your firm might be my firm was an IP and IT firm. So my zeal to build on my IP skills were on a different level. I wanted to know everything related to IP and IT. I had a colleague, or I have, yeah, I had because I'm no longer in the firm. He has interest in esports. So for esports related events, he is the go-to person. For
Okay.
blockchain, crypto, you have Senator and the rest. So everybody has their strong point, which is why I stated that if you listen to senators speak, you always talk about the T lawyer and know your strong and your weak points. So once you know your strong points or your weak points, you know what to develop on. That will help
Okay.
you in specializing. So because I have an interest in IP, I know that IP has its tentacle in every industry. There's the film, fashion, entertainment, pharmaceutical, manufacturing, automobiles, etc. I recall one time I did a review about a Ford case and I shared it and I had like 40, I think 41 employees from Ford viewed that particular post. If you check this LinkedIn algorithm. So people are actually watching, you know. You don't necessarily need to be an expert, say you have a published book. But as long as you keep adding value to that community, people will keep noticing you. Let's say you work in a firm, because I think for lawyers in Nigeria, most lawyers work in law firms than in institutions, whether private or public. And I don't want to say it's sad, but I think we should do a lot more in terms of spreading our tentacles in other area. I know once we get into a particular area, we like to just like
Stay
come in
there.
our numbers. So it's not a bad thing, but at the end of the day, wherever your journey starts as your journey, our pathways can never be the same. For specialization, I have interest, other than being an IP lawyer, I have interest in fashion, I have interest in film, I have interest in entertainment, I have interest in pharmaceutical and health tech, I have interest in data protection, I have interest in cyber security. All of these things I haven't taken seriously. I'm developing my skills more on the IP angle because I think the IP angle is like the foundation for me. Once I
Okay.
get it, I also have interest in sports and media law. I have interest in maritime law. So I have a lot of interest. So let's move from there. There's a dispute resolution angle as a mediator, as an arbitrator. I start in a mediation dispute as a mediator for 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 was a maritime related dispute in terms of tugboat and all those things. I had to do my research on that. So while you have, I think the beauty about this time is there's a lot of materials for you. If you now want to hone your skill, you have to take the extra work of attending events, publishing in all these smaller blogs. So one time, so there's this senior lawyer, he's a partner in one of the big firms. I can't remember how we met. Really, I remember we met at a conference, and then I was still at Infusion. I told him I worked in a virtual firm that I interested in. And then he come
Okay.
said, "Let's go out and talk." So you see that because of having interaction, you get interested into something that you don't even think anybody's interested in. And for every time that we meet, I think among all the seniors that I would call a mentor, he always tries to put me in places. So he invites me for stuffs and then introduces me and let me do my work. So that helps you develop your networking skills. You also learn from this, other than listening to their side jokes and all those things, you also need to pick or read in between the lines to get the points that they are trying to let you know without actually saying it out loud. Do you get my point?
Yeah.
Specializing, not bad. I have knowledge on these areas because I'm deliberate about what I read when it comes to them. So why I do IP, copyright, trademark, design rights, plant variety. I think again, no, I think so because of all these things, I was put in a committee that is working or worked on the initial geographical indication draft bill. And I got into that after I invited Mr. Sandumba on my podcast to talk about geographical indication. So from there, it showed that I had interest for me to even um think about that area because it's not something that is very common. So I call plant variety and geographical indication uncommon IP. I do recall when I interviewed the former director of education for plant variety, the UPOV, is the UPOV. She wanted to know my idea or reason why I consider plant variety to be uncommon, and I told her within my jurisdiction, it's not the go-to IP that anybody thinks about.
Mm.
It was very
Okay. We
interesting.
just talk about
So
copyright, trademark.
Yes. So and that's because, like I said, the jurisdiction also matters. Internationally, everybody they're doing. There's this lady in the US that's always publishing new plant varieties that have been registered in her location, and I'm amazed. And like we're not doing, like we have so much. We're not taking advantage of it. We are losing IPs because now everybody wants to put that content out there. They call it content, but that's we making our intangible asset to be generic. That we eventually have the laws is now become difficult to actually claim right over it because one, it now become a very generic thing that every other person knows. There's nothing new. There's nothing. The qualities or characteristics of that product is no longer in vogue or is not a secret anymore. We are losing IPs. We are losing talents. We are losing a lot of things. So I don't know if that answers your questions,
It
but
does,
it
it does, it does
doesn't.
answer my question. So now tell us about yourself, the areas of IP you
Ah,
practice in, where we can find you, the your podcasts and the legal services that you render or offer. So that's the last thing that we wrap
okay.
up.
Okay, like I previously stated, my
And your
name.
contact details.
Maybe.
I'll still get them and put them in the caption anyway, but let's hear from you first.
Okay, so I already know my name, Rita Anwiri Chindah. That's my
Okay.
name. I have a master's in intellectual property and information technology from the University of Derby. I am a lecturer at the River State University. Yeah. And I what else again? Yeah,
Your
I'm the
podcast.
IP consultant. I'm the IP consultant for IGA Nigeria Limited, which the project basically focuses on cultural preservation, tourism, hospitality, the
Okay.
whole thing. My podcast, I have 119 episodes published so far to date, with
What's it
about
called?
7,000
What's
plus.
it about?
So you can find it on Spotify for podcasters. It used to be on Google Podcast, but Google Podcasters it's no longer in existence. It's also on
Oh,
Apple.
I
It's
didn't even
also
know
on
that.
Apple
But I have
Podcast.
the app.
I think that it's on Apple Podcast. It's on Amazon Music.
Okay.
It's on any other platform. Just type in IP series podcast and you will see. Yeah, it's also on Jollof Radio, which I think is like among of the Nigerian platforms that are coming up. They are like one of my best because they help with a lot of things. Very
Is
very
Jollof
creative
Radio,
people.
is Jollof Radio like what's that Mixler
No, no, no,
or like
no,
a
no,
radio?
no.
What is it?
A radio slash a podcast platform, basically.
Okay, so it hosts other podcasts like
Yes, it
yours.
hosts other
Okay,
podcasts.
okay,
Yes, like mine, and you can also start with them. So it's Nigerian based. There's
okay,
also another one called Flock. There's also another one called AP AfriPod. And a couple of them. So I think as a podcaster, it's important. My podcast is also on Audiomack. If you use Audiomack, please
okay.
go and look
Audio
for
Mac,
IPC. So
IP series.
yeah, it's just like IP series will pop up. My logo is very very pronounced, red and white with something in
Okay,
the middle.
okay.
Yeah.
IP series.
I'm based in Port Harcourt, but I'm open to jobs anywhere in the world. You just need to
Okay.
pay my flight tickets, my accommodation, feeding, then my professional fees for leaving Port Harcourt to your location, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But shall just give
And
me advance notice. Give me
yeah, so
advance
how
notice.
would someone contact you if they wanted to reach out to
Also,
you?
my personal email is my full name at gmail.com. My
Okay,
podcast is ipseriesinfo@gmail.com. But I
okay.
give you my phone number, but that's too much
No, no,
details
no, no.
and
An email is fine. So whoever contacts you by email, if they need to take conversation further, you give them that. So
yeah,
still
you can
asking
also
about
reach me out on social media. Yeah, I forgot to add something when you're talking about lawyers and starting out. I think that was the question. You also need to
yeah.
learn how to party once in a while. Go out, see a movie, hang out with friends, go to the club, just have fun. That's the balance. If not, people read a lot, your head will just explode one day.
Okay, the lawyers need to let down their hair. Okay, so I'll get the other details. Your social. Oh no, give us your social media handles.
Oh, my social media handle for my podcast is at IP series with Esmeraldo ASQ.
Okay.
Instagram is at Esmeraldo ASQ. Twitter is also at Esmeraldo ASQ. I had to change that because of branding.
Okay.
So I have this friend.
Esmeralda
He
is your
calls me
name.
I beg your pardon.
Esmeralda is your name.
Oh no, there's a story behind that.
Okay.
So I
So
was
take
born.
that.
I'm born in May, and my birthstone is Emerald. So when I was creating
Oh, okay.
emails, there were so many Emerald ads. You know, they'll tell you taking. So I just added Esmerald. So Esmeraldo ESQ. Before it used to be Esmeraldo 99, but Mr. Lai advised me to sync all my names so that I bear the same thing. So
Okay. Yeah,
that's the
that's
thing about branding.
easier.
Branding is a lot of work.
Okay, so I'll get those things from you so that I can put them in the caption so that people don't mix up the spelling and whatnot. So thank you so much
Mm.
for coming on this podcast session today.
Thank
It's
you for having me.
been an honor, talking to you. I like people who talk about what they do and we'll talk about their journey. You don't know whose journey you're shining a light on, just by talking about yours. So I think it's one of the most important ways to impact the world. You know, even if you don't know it as a person, but it's a great thing. So thank you so much for coming. We hope that if we call you some other time, you would, oblige us. So this is where we sign out today. To all those who are going to watch the replay, we hope that you are able to bear with us regarding the network glitches. But I hope that more than anything, you will get the value that I have gotten and that anyone who has joined us, got from the session today. So we're signing out now. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
for having me. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.